I want to do another video talking about the Kaleidescape. I talked about it a little bit, and with the Kaleidescape, I'm seeing a couple of different things, right? First of all, be very, very careful about what y'all are doing out here, like who you're like listening to. A lot of these influencers with the big channels, they are in bed with dealers. They're not going to tell you the truth a lot of times what's going on. Some of them will, some of them won't, right? So I've been collecting physical media for a while, and with the 4K UHD format, and I've got an LG G4 in like multiple different rooms, and love that TV, the way it like displays images. And so to get the most out of it, obviously you're not going to use like an Apple TV, which I think Apple TV is doing a lot better than they did like over the years. You kind of want to use physical media, because then you're going to get the color depth is going to be amazing. The HDR, the Dolby Vision is going to be amazing. And one of my sources for a long time has been a UB820. The problem I've been having is because the more physical media you collect, the harder it is to figure out places to store it. Right. So I've been looking for other alternatives, like, okay, well, maybe I can get a Plex server, and then you find it out like they're trying to charge you for things. And I'm like, well, maybe I can get, just, download everything, rip everything, and put it on a Zydu, or then you spend like hours ripping things. And I'm just like, what is a better option for me? Right. So I started going to Exponent and going to Audio Advice Live, and I would see the Kaleidescapes, and I would ask questions, like, how is this like versus the 4K UHD? And they would say, oh, it's so much better and everything, right? Did some research, and there is like some evidence that there are some movies that have more information, right, in the movie, but does it necessarily translate on screen? So I decided to go ahead and get one. And I got mine through Best Buy. I didn't go through a dealer because my dealer was just playing around. Like, he was planning on going out of town, and it's just to get him to me to just meet up with him to do the deal. Like, it was just hard to like catch him. And then the place in Nashville, they kind of don't want to go around the other dealers and all, so it's weird here. It's old school. And so I had to wait on him. And by the time like he was going to be done doing whatever he was going to do, price was going to go up. So I got it from Best Buy, right? So what I ended up getting, not a Strato C, because my TV has like Dolby Vision. A bunch of my TVs have Dolby Vision. I ended up getting a Strato V, right? And so with that, it only holds 10 movies, but I'm like, hey, if I like this thing, maybe I'll end up getting a Terra server or whatever. And then I seen the Terra server price, which is crazy, right? But I'm like, oh, I can at least, since I have it, see it and see if there's really a difference. So I ended up running Ready Player One, right? And I would go back and forth between, have one input on the UB820, another input on the Strato V Kaleidescape, and I would just try to run it back and forth to see if I heard anything that was different. Because visually, sometimes the UB820 would look better than the Kaleidescape, depending on what movie was running, because it's got really good tone mapping. All right. And so looks wise, it's kind of like it's just a little bit better in some movies, different things in the movies, like lighting with the UB820, like the highlights weren't as blown out and stuff like that. But I'm like, let me hear like the audio. Like, is the audio different, right? And in Ready Player One, it did sound like the audio was a little bit more dynamic. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is a placebo. Let me go ahead and run like Justice League and A/B it like back and forth. And when I finally got everything set up correctly with the Kaleidescape, the bit rate, you could tell like by watching the motion of the movie, is that the bit rate was a little bit better on the Kaleidescape. Not by miles, just a little bit. It was less ghosting. Like when somebody is moving around, it's like super smooth, and then there's a little bit more depth in the image. So it's like almost like when you're watching, if you got like an LG G4, you know what I'm talking about. It's like sometimes things are, depending on what you're watching, look so good and clear. It's like you're almost there. And that's how I was feeling watching Justice League on the Kaleidescape versus the UB820. So I'm like, okay, well, and then I looked at the the size of the file. And the size of the file was like way bigger than what you would get on the disc version. So maybe that had something to do with it. But one thing that stood out to me the most was the audio. And I'm just like, there is a difference. Even though they both have kind of like, I guess, lossless audio or whatever, the Kaleidescape version of the movie kind of sounds like, you know how DTSX is versus Atmos, right? So DTSX, for the most part, it always sounds like it's 1 or 2 dB hotter is when you're listening to something. And it's just like even the channels, because they're not as compressed as Dolby, Atmos, because Dolby kind of compresses everything to be like seamless and just smooth sounding, and you can, like the objects move around like pretty good. Like if you're listening to Blade Runner, like the original Final Cut 4K, and you're listening to it through the UB820, it's like it's super like controlled, but it's loud, but it's controlled. You know what I mean? But like DTSX is just loud. You know what I mean? And a little bit uncontrolled, I always felt like, with all of my different receivers. I've got an AVM 90 processor Anthem. I've got MRX 1140 Arc Genesis Anthem. I've got Onkyo RZ50, Denon 3800H, Marantz Cinema 50. I got all of these, right? And what I found, like through all of it, DTSX always sound a little bit louder. When you use a Kaleidescape, right, and you're using this as your primary source, it sounds like DTSX and Atmos. The thing that you don't like about Atmos is that Atmos is good, you know what I mean, for the most part, but it's just not as loud as DTSX. You just gotta crank the volume up a little bit. It marries the two so that you get, it seems like an unrestricted Atmos experience. So the best way to say it is like when it's almost like somebody removes a veil from the sound. Like maybe there's a filter over the sound, they just take it off. That's how the Atmos is represented, like on a Kaleidescape. So when I was watching like Warfare, I think it was, and you can hear everything. It's just like, all the gunshots from outside, everything. You just hear everything like coming at you, and it's louder, so that's what I like about it. Even when Dune, like if you're running the movie Dune, like the first one, when they're in the orthopter, whatever it's called, and like he's got his mom, they're up there and they're like trying to get away or whatever, you can hear, like in Atmos, you can kind of hear, I got an AVM 90. It's like very good. It's got good capacitors, transistors, like very short distance. You know what I mean? It's got very good DACs. Like the AVM 90 is baller. You know what I mean? I've heard the trend off, the altitude 32 and audio advice. Then, because my intention was to get the trend off. But then I heard the AVM 90 and I'm like, it sounds like the same. And I was talking to people there. I'm like, doesn't this kind of sound the same to you? And they're like, yeah. They're like, I wouldn't get a trend off. I'll just get an Anthem. So I got the Anthem AVM 90 and saved a bunch of money. But it's still expensive though. It's like $7,500, but I only pay like $5,900 for mine if you go through a dealer. But like when you're listening to Dune through an AVM 90, it's already going to sound good regardless of the source. But if you listen to it through a 4K UHD, you hear like the sound of the sand hitting the orthopter outside of the ship, right? But they're inside of the ship, but you can hear the sand and everything hitting from outside of the ship. On the Kaleidescape, it's like everything is just like pushed forward. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just so much more. Everything that you hear is so much more present. It's kind of insane, really. Like when you look at the Kaleidescape site, they kind of market it as being better than streaming, and just about everything's better than streaming, right? And then they say that the audio is the same. I don't know how this thing, because I think it's doing like pass-through audio or whatever. Like, I don't know. It just sounds like everything is louder and unrestricted. And that's like the best way I can explain it. So like even when you like Ghost in the Shell is like my favorite movie to like just listen to because it sounds crazy, right? Because in the house I got the cinema 50 and the Denon 3800H. I got an MRX 1140 and all that. It's cool, right? On the receivers, it's cool. The Ghost in the Shell sounds good. When I bring it and I hook it up to the Avium 90, that movie, it's got so many different layers of sound. Like it is just so like distinguished when you are listening to it through the separates, obviously, but then the Avium, the Kaleidescape. And I take my Kaleidescape, bring it in the house. Because sometimes, like, if I, depending on how much I want to wait, because I'm out in my shed, I don't get as good of internet as I do in the house. So sometimes I just bring my Strato V out in the house, download like 10, 10 movies I want to watch or whatever, rent them, 4K quality, like dope, and I'll bring it back in the shed, you know what I mean? And sometimes I'll listen to like Ghost in the Shell on my Anthem MRX 1140, which is still baller, right? And I heard more detail out of Ghost in the Shell through the Kaleidescape than I did the UB820 running the disc of Ghost in the Shell. So I'm like, oh, okay, so it's not just because it is an Avium 90, you know what I mean? You're going to hear things that you may not hear on like a MRX 1140 just because the DAX and everything is different. But when you like, even if you hook a Kaleidescape up to a receiver, which is not as good as separates, you could still hear so much more. It's like, it's just an unrestricted sound that you get, and I love that, so I didn't like the Kaleidescape, and I made like some videos on why I didn't like it. I was having trouble with it. It's hard to find somebody that knows anything about it to like help you through things. And I had an issue. It was just like cutting off and stuff like that. So I had a very negative experience with Kaleidescape head on. You know what I mean? I even was in like the AVS forums complaining about it. You know what I'm saying? I just, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't like really just going off on it. I was just like, I was having issues and letting people know, like, I'm a user and this is what's going on. I need help with this, but once I got everything like working like it should, it's just, I don't know, man. Like I ran the movie because you find yourself buying the movies again, like because you don't want to get up and get a 4K UHD and put it in the Blu-ray player, and the Blu-ray player takes forever. UB820. Then you got to sit through to wait to get to the title menu. You might have to watch commercials. You might have to just wait for the, you know what I mean, like the movie company logos and all. Like that is annoying. Kaleidescape just plays the movie. You bypass all of that. But I just feel like, to me, it's to get the 4K UHD quality and sometimes a little bit better, still 4K, but it's like sometimes a little bit better. I think it flows easier. Like, and then you can just bounce between movies, and yeah, you can do the same thing with a Zydu, right? Because I was thinking, I'm like, man, before the return window is out, you know what I mean? I'll just get rid of it and get like a Zydu. But then if I get a Zydu, I'm gonna have to rip movies. And that could take like up to an hour per movie. And people are like, I get it. It's just like, because you either do that or you're going to be paying for an expensive Terra server, which I'm probably not going to buy that. Like, it's expensive. It's like $55,000 or something like that for like 8 terabytes of space, which is insane. Like Kaleidescape is just ripping you off. I don't care. I said it. They're ripping you off. So it's like that, or just buy a Zydu and you can get a whole Zydu and get a whole bunch of storage, and like way cheaper than a Kaleidescape. Just the unit of the Kaleidescape, the Strato V, you get like you can, and buy a whole ton of movies for the price of just the unit of the Kaleidescape. So I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to do that. But then thinking about it, like ripping movies, the thing that got me on a Kaleidescape is I started using it primarily to rent movies in 4K UHD. Right? So it's like a movie, I'm like, I'm probably not going to watch this twice. So if they got on a Kaleidescape early, right? Because for the most part, the movies drop the same time as Apple TV. right? On the Kaleidescape. The whole them just dropping movies earlier than everybody else, that's a lie. If any reviewer's telling you that, they're affiliate and they're just trying to sell you on it or want you to buy, Kaleidescape through them. They're not going to tell you the truth on that. No, they dropped about the same time as Apple TV. The difference is that it's cheaper oftentimes on the Apple TV to rent movies. It is. It's a lot cheaper for the most part. The quality is not the same as the Kaleidescape. The Kaleidescape is going to give you way better quality. So I tend to like when a new release comes out before it's like, because you might be able to see it in 4K like a month before the release to the general public of a 4K UHD, right? And you would see a 4K version in full quality almost a month before everybody else. That is what I think is the killer feature, in my opinion, about this Kaleidescape. So it's like, is that enough to really justify the price? Or, if you're a person that could wait, if you can wait, better to wait and save your money. You know what I mean? But I'm impatient. If I see something drop and I just want to watch it in the best quality and I don't have to worry about Apple TV neutering the audio, the Kaleidescape is that option. And so the way I started using the Strato V, it's like, you don't necessarily, they should include more space. They're just being cheap and robbing us. That's what they're doing. They should at least have, like for the cost of that thing, like they should have maybe 6 terabytes or something like that. It's something reasonable. 5 terabytes at least. And there's something reasonable. They shouldn't be ripping people off like this. This is crazy. This is why people don't get in the home theater, because you got these people that just try to like rip you off, as much money as they can get out of you. They don't care about you. Like, oh, well, our clientele don't have a problem with it. Yeah, because you're trying to get clientele you can rip off. That's what it is. But, and I don't care what they think. But as far as like using it, it's changed the way I've dealt with media. It has, because now I can just like, I can watch like, and then they got the scenes thing, which I didn't think it was a big deal on the Kaleidescape. They say don't use the scenes that they give you, like create your own scripts and your own scenes. But if you only have like 10 movies you can fit on this thing, you know what I mean? You don't want to go through the process of doing all of that. And then, and then you delete the movie and you put another movie on there and then you bring the movie back and all this stuff is gone. It's like pointless to do that. They don't have any memory for that. So the scripting is ridiculous, but the scenes that they give you on a lot of movies is good. So it's cool to be able to just go to Ghost in the Shell, watch some of my favorite scenes, and they already have them. Like some of my favorite scenes are already on there, but what they have chosen to be favorite scenes because they're like the most action packed and all that. It's already on there. Then I can get out of that scene, go to another movie, and play the movie like that. It might take me to back out of a movie I'm watching, go to another movie and start it. It might take 5 seconds. Maybe about 5. I'm talking about scene, get out, go back to the home screen, pick the movie. By the time you scroll down, go to the movie, it's playing. And you could have a bunch of like new releases that nobody has. And you could do that. Best quality. That's what, and you don't have to sit through. Time is money to me. I do YouTube. This is my second channel, right? My main channel, I got over 100 and some thousand subscribers, 50 some million views. I'm constantly focused on that channel, right? So it's hard for me to get time away to watch movies, and then I gotta work and all of that. So I don't want to be fiddling through trying to put a disc in the DVD player that's gonna take forever to start up. And then by the time you go through that process and then you go and you sit down, get your food or whatever, you sit down, and it's like the movie's almost ending. You might be thinking like, man, I kind of want to pop in another movie, but I don't want to get up and do all of that. But with the Kaleidescape, you just done. All with the remote. But if you got one of these Sofa Patans or like if you got a Harmony Elite, you know what I mean, or whatever. The thing I don't like about it, they're being extra cheap on, and a lot of these reviewers, and they're not going to tell you this, they don't even include a remote with the Strato V. That is ridiculous. and they raised the price on the Strato V. So it's $4,400, right? When I got this, it was $4,000, right? The Strato V. And my dealer was working on trying to get me the deal to get it for like 3,600 or something like that. 35 or 3,600. And he drug his feet. And so I ended up getting this for 4,000, but it was just going to be like a temporary through Best Buy. And then just like whenever I can get the unit from him, that would be what it was. You know what I mean? Pay, you know what I mean? The money and just get it. And then I would get like a steal on the unit. But now the price is higher, and they're not even including like remotes. That is crazy, guys. The problem with these manufacturers is that they spit on the home theater enthusiasts. That's what they do. And this is why people don't want to get into home theater. This is ridiculous. So you will have Youth Man. Oh, Kaleidescape is amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. But he won't tell you like, hey, you know, now they don't come with remotes. Or maybe they came with remotes when he did the reviews or whatever, you know? Or Tech Enthusiasm. They don't really want to tell you. They'll be like, oh, well, most people just use their phones anyway. I'm not trying to use some touchscreen on my phone to control my Kaleidescape. I just paid all this money for. I want a dedicated remote because it's smooth on the phone, but then when you try to like actually make it like go to something and you want to hit enter, would you have to hit in the middle of the control pad thing? A lot of times you miss it. You know, and it's just like you would just want like a dedicated remote. Oh, well, most people have a Control 4 or they have another remote for it. It's ridiculous. You know, so that's some of the things I don't like about it. But as far as like, do I like it now? Yes. I'm still in my return window and wondering if I'm going to return it because I like it that much. I did not think I was going to like this thing. This is what I love about it, right? Renting new releases is expensive. It's not cheap. On average, $39. To get the movie, you know what I mean? $29 to rent it, $39 to rent it sometimes. It's like crazy expensive to like rent movies that are brand new on it. But other movies that you may see, they got like a deals tab that's got deals on it. Ain't really deals, they still expensive. But you got some movies that you might look at, right? If you go on Amazon, they might be $19, $21 on Amazon. On a Kaleidescape, a lot of times they're $14.99. Sometimes you got movies that are more expensive than you can get on Amazon. You know, like Ready Player One is going to be more expensive on the Kaleidescape because this is one of the popular movies that they run on a Kaleidescape. So it's going to be more expensive on Kaleidescape than it is like, you know, 4K UHD. Might as well get the 4K UHD, depending on the price. They do have it to where if you have like an external like Blu-ray player or whatever, you could just hook it up to the Kaleidescape and then they can do offers, you know, and sometimes the offers are really good. It's like, you know, pay $4.95 and you get the best version of the movie. That's fire. One thing I really love about the Kaleidescape, and nobody talks about this because you know, they're dealers and affiliates. They don't really even know about the product a lot of times. They're trying to sell it to you. The thing I love about it is that take a movie like Blade Runner 2049. The 4K UHD is in HDR. On Kaleidescape, you can either download the HDR version or you can download the Dolby Vision version. I didn't even know that movie was in Dolby Vision. So I watched it in Dolby Vision and I watched it in HDR. I think HDR looks a little bit better. That's probably why they ended with, you know, its licensing agreements and stuff like that. Probably don't want to pay Dolby like money like that. You know what I mean? To be using Dolby Vision. Maybe that could have been what it is. But the Dolby Vision version didn't look as good as the HDR version. But then they got other movies like Oppenheimer. It's got Dolby Vision on it. You know what I'm saying? That looks really good with Dolby Vision. You know, and then it's like Interstellar. I didn't even know Interstellar had a Dolby Vision version. All I know is the HDR version, just like y'all, like for the most part. Kaleidescape's got a Dolby Vision version. I'm like, what? I downloaded that, bruh. It's Dolby Vision. Looks way better than like a 4K UHD. You know, and it's got more information and stuff on it. I don't know if that's because of the Dolby Vision or whatever, but when you look at it on screen, it's more depth. Image looks better. Space looks better. The wormhole, whatever, like in the movie, like looks better. Like everything like looks way better with the Dolby Vision. So there is a lot of movies that I've seen that have Dolby Vision that I never knew had Dolby Vision. If you don't have a Dolby Vision TV, it wouldn't matter to you. But that's great. You know, or like I've got Gladiator, right? So Gladiator on 4K UHD is cool, right? But it's got the DTSX mix. On Kaleidescape, it's got the Dolby Atmos mix. So it's like, wait, so I just put it in the Kaleidescape, the Blu-ray copy or whatever, put it in the Kaleidescape, recognize that I own the movie, and they gave me an option to pay $4.95. I think it was even cheaper than that with that movie. I think it was like $3, and so $3.95. And then now I can upgrade it to the best version of the movie. I thought that was sick. So of course I jumped on it. The new Jurassic Park, everybody's rebuying Jurassic Park on 4K UHD because now it comes with Atmos. Because before it was DTSX. With the Kaleidescape, I just put the you know, you get two copies, a Blu-ray and a 4K. So I put the Blu-ray copy into the Kaleidescape from the disc box. It recognized that I own Jurassic Park. And it offered me, I think it was like $3.95 or something like that to upgrade to the lossless or the Dolby Vision version. Not the Dolby Vision, but the Atmos version. I'm like, what? That is insane. I bought it. It was cheap. I got the 4K UHD, but now I got the Dolby version. I'm sorry, yeah, the Dolby Atmos version with that doesn't have the DTSX. It's got the Atmos. It's a difference. The picture looks better, everything. It's a difference. But to have that flexibility, or even if you didn't own the movie before and you just, you know, you can't find it. Like I had an issue with Titanic, right? Because they had Titanic and Dolby Vision and Atmos and all of that, whatever. And you couldn't, I think Dolby Vision, you couldn't find it anywhere, 4K UHD. I had to wait. This is before I got the Kaleidescape. I had to wait a whole month. Amazon was playing games, the distributor, all of that playing games. I had to wait a whole month, right? If I would have had a Kaleidescape, I could have got it as soon as I wanted it. There's a movie called Another Earth, right? And I seen it a long time ago at an independent, like, movie place, like film place in Nashville. And I'm like, man, if I ever find that movie, because I go, like, to McKay's in Nashville, whatever, like, collecting 4K UHDs or whatever. And I'm like, if I ever see that movie again, I'm buying it, you know? And it always slips my mind. But, you know, sometimes I'll look on Amazon and it's like, you know, you got to wait like a month before the person can get it to you, or like 3 weeks. You're like, what? I got like Amazon Prime. Why is it so hard to like get me the movie? Because the movie's hard to find, right? So yesterday or 2 days ago, I looked and I seen it on the Kaleidescape. It's been on there, but it just, you know, every once in a while I just look at the movies, and you can look at movies multiple different ways, either through your phone, through the website, or through the Kaleidescape. I like looking through them through the Kaleidescape because it's cool. I love the UI, but I prefer looking at it through the computer, on the computer's website, because it's ways for you to pull up more movies that you may not have that option looking at it on the Kaleidescape, because it's not as, you know, I don't know why, but sometimes you find things better that way. Or, you know, looking them up on the iPad, looking them up on your phone. It's multiple different ways. But I seen Another Earth movie. I'm like, oh my God, they got it. It was like $14.99 or whatever. Man, I bought it right then. Downloaded. Was it? It wasn't a big file, like 8 minutes, something like that. It was done. That's insane. You know? And like I said, some movies are like, it's a lot of movies I feel like it's cheaper than the actual disc. You know, renting movies is another story. Sometimes they're, you know, most of the time renting a movie is like $7.95. No taxes or nothing. You know what I mean? Just $7.95. It's great. You know, on a lot of movies are like $4.99 on Apple TV, and you got to pay taxes and stuff like that. So it's kind of negligible with that, right? And some movies are $5.99 on Apple TV, $7.99, just depending on what it is. So that's kind of negligible. But like renting movies, if you feel like you're not gonna buy it, $7.95 ain't that big of a deal, you know. And then they also will do, like on the Kaleidescape, which is cool. It's like so there's a movie called Battle of LA or something like that. It's like an alien movie. I heard somebody talking about it. I'm like, man, I want to see it. And I looked on Amazon And it was like 2 days to get here, and I looked on the Kaleidescape, and I just downloaded it right away. So I'm like, yo, I haven't watched, I'm probably not gonna watch The Matrix that's sitting here on my hard drive for a while. Let me just delete that and so I downloaded it on the Kaleidescape. It sounded insane. And I rented it, $7.95, and I'm like, man, I should have bought that movie. So I went back to it, and I'm like, I'm just gonna pay for it because I think it was like $20 or something. It was like, it's an old movie, but I'm like, it still costs a lot. But I looked, and they gave me a discount because I rented the movie. So I can't remember what it was, but I didn't have to pay full price for the movie. And I thought that was dope that they would do that. They give you like up to a month to decide whether or not you want to like buy the movie, so they'll give you like a credit. Insane, right? So now the more I'm using this thing, the more I'm liking it. You know what I mean? The thing I don't like about Kaleidescape is the community. I think these guys, they're salesmen. Home theater is becoming snake oil salesman people. As I feel. I think they lie about it. They gloat. A lot of movies are the same as the disc in size. You know what I mean? But a lot of movies may be somewhat close. This is how I want to say. So some movies are the size of the 4K UHD, but you get more movie. Whereas the 4K UHD, you got a lot of extras, you got a different menu, you got, what I'm saying, like all of that stuff. You know what I mean? They sitting down with the actors talking all that. You don't have to worry about that like on the Kaleidescape. You just get the movie. Or you can download the extras and stuff like that if you want. So the data is more for the movie, you know what I mean, than the extras. But you can get the extras if you want that. You just download it separately. You know what I mean? So it just depends. One thing I don't like about it, right? But it's only with some movies. And it's why you got to do your research or look at the movie before you buy it. So Pacific Rim sounds way better on the Kaleidescape than it does the disc. But Pacific Rim Uprising, that movie, the Atmos is not on the Dolby Vision version, right? But you're able to download two different versions. You can download the HDR version or whatever, and you can download the HD version, or you can download the Dolby Vision version. The HD version has Dolby Atmos, whereas the Dolby Vision version doesn't have the Dolby Atmos. So it's like, why wouldn't you put Dolby Atmos? If we're supposed to get the best versions on the Kaleidescape, why is that an issue with that movie? You know what I mean? So some movies are like kind of finicky like that, you find out. But for the most part, like, I think you do get like the best versions of the movie. So this is what another thing I love. I don't know. I think I love this thing. I ain't gonna even lie. This is what I love it. Thing I love about it, right? So let's just say you're watching a Disney movie. And Disney 4K UHDs are crap. I don't care what they say. They use 60 gig discs, 66 gig discs or something like that. Very the bass sounds neutered. The audio sounds like it's a soundbar mix. Just sounds terrible, right? And the colors don't really look like you think they should look because they're using a small disc because Disney is cheap, right? I watched movies from Disney on a Kaleidescape. It's a whole different experience. When you watching 4K UHD on a 100 gig disc and you comparing it to a Kaleidescape, it's kind of negligible. Only difference is I think the audio is better. Depending on your source or whatever, the audio is better on the Kaleidescape. But for the most part, and less ghosting. But when you watch a Disney movie, bro, from a 4K UHD Disney movie and a Kaleidescape, it is night and day different. You know what I mean? And that's what I like doing. Like if I think about watching a Disney movie, I'm going to the Kaleidescape first. You will be surprised. What is it, Jungle Cruise? Or like I was watching Jungle Cruise on Disney, I think it was. And then I watched it on the Kaleidescape. I'm like, whoa. You see more detail. It sounds like a whole nother movie. And this is multiple Disney type because they use super compression on their 4K UHD. They don't really care about consumers with that. So, hey, things like that, Kaleidescape is insane, bro. Even Ratatouille. Watch it on the Disney, even stream. You know, stream is not going to compare to 4K UHD, but listen to that on the, you know what I mean? Like a stream it and then listen to that through the Kaleidescape. Man, it's insane. You know what I'm saying? But like a big disc, like Infinity War, of like a in-game Infinity War, or whatever it's called. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get into superhero movies, but it's a big file on the Kaleidescape. And I've watched, you know what I'm saying? I watched like the disc version and I'm like, it's kind of, the audio is kind of weak. Yeah, it don't really look too great. It's all right. You know what I'm saying? I watched it on the Kaleidescape. It was like a whole new movie. You know what I mean? Like, it just looked way better. Like, Thanos looked insane. You know what I mean? He didn't look the same. Like, he's looked the same, but it's like, there's more depth, more definition. You can see like everything on the Kaleidescape version. And the sound was better. I think it's got bad sound. Like, that movie is just mixed terribly. They skimped on the audio, which is silly, but it sounds better on the Kaleidescape. So it's like, I don't know, man. Like, if you really are a diehard fan, I don't think you can go. You know, people who are just resistant and pissed off about the price, like me, you know, I'm gonna say, oh, a Plex server can do this, or a Zydu can do that. You know, because I don't like the price. I think the price is ridiculous, and they need to know that, and consumers need to voice that this is crazy. You know what I mean? And so it's things that make me say, man, I could just get a Zydu player, and you know what I mean? Like, I can watch Apple TV for this. You know what I mean? It makes me do that. But Kaleidescape is a whole nother world in terms of viewing a movie. They try to market like these reviewers, and they try to say, oh, well, Top Gun Maverick is way different on the Kaleidescape. Looks than UHD. It looks the same. It looks a little bit better on the Kaleidescape. Very, like, minuscule. Only thing you notice is different is like when the planes are in the background, there's no ghosting. But it looks basically the same. The audio is the same, like, as the disc. Kind of a little bit the same. You know what I'm saying? It's just a little, slightly more. This is what I like about the Kaleidescape. I like a lot of things about it. This is what I really like about the Kaleidescape. And I don't know why I didn't say this earlier. If you're a sound guy and you like subwoofers, right? You notice the difference like when you're streaming a movie and you hear like a bass note and you can kind of hear the drywall like in your room or whatever like move, you know what I mean? And you feel like maybe your calibration is getting out of tune or something like that when you hear it. And it's not that your calibration is out of tune, it's that the audio is so compressed. You're only getting, like, you're getting the bass, but you're not getting what the bass really should be, right? But when you move to 4K UHD, you get more bass, right? You get more sound distinction and stuff like that, but you get more bass. But sometimes it's still like a little, you might hear the room react or whatever, and then you think, I might have to run Odyssey again, I might have to run Arc Genesis again, or run Direct Live again, because I shouldn't be hearing anything. Because some people like when they're, you know, their room is flexing and moving and, you know, reacting to things and things are rattling. And I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? I like how it feels, but I don't like being distracted because I might look like, man, that sounds like crap. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like that. With the Kaleidescape, the audio is so unrestricted, you get the full, like, bass. So whatever your DSP or whatever's going on in your subwoofer is able to do it right. So you will find that you're hearing less of your room and more filling bass. That's the big thing with this Kaleidescape. That's the big thing, because I'm a tweaker and I'm very particular, like, about my system. So I run Arc Genesis all the time. Like, if I put something different in the room, if I hear something I don't like, I might have to redo Arc Genesis, and then after I redo it, I level match and do all this stuff, and it's time consuming. And I find that I don't really do that anymore because the system is breathing how it should. You know, and it's getting a clean signal how it should. You know what I mean? Unlike a disc, can still be compressed to fit on the disc. You know what I mean? To where the things have to be, picture is going to be, if you got so much room, they're going to prioritize picture quality over sound quality 100% of the time when it comes to movies. Unless it's a, Blade Runner 2049. That's kind of, they let the audio rock, or Dune or something like that. I think Dune, they prioritize audio over visuals, in Dune 1, right? But with the Kaleidescape, it's like the audio is uncompromised. It's what I love about it. So if I got somebody coming over here, I don't have in the back of my mind, they might hear my room reacting to the bass. And then you can localize what a subwoofer is. Whereas like Kaleidescape, I feel myself being able to localize the subwoofers a lot less. When you can start localizing subwoofers, you turn them down so where you can't, but I like bass, and so I like turning them up, you know what I mean? Or, just raising it in the home setting of the anthem has got to, like you can use your phone or whatever to control it, everything like that. Not going to the level of the bass, you know what I mean? So where you can adjust it 3 dB up and stuff like that. Not that. It's like another like thing you can adjust the treble and stuff like that. I use that. And then the bass, I can control it from there. And I like cranking it up. So if I'm listening to Pacific Rim, it's like I feel like I'm in that, you know what I mean? Like Gypsy, the machine or whatever. Like it's insane. And you can hear super dynamic bass with no restriction. You know what I'm saying? With the room not flexing and stuff. That's what I love. And that's what they need to like harp on. Like this is what the sound quality, this is what it's going to sound like. You know what I mean? This is, we renting movies. This is what, if they can adjust. And I don't know if they're just trying to make as much money off the hardware because they don't know any given time Apple TV can do an update, which they're doing an update to do the audio pass-through. And they're updating their spatial audio, I think, on the Apple TV. So it's got a lot of people who nervous who have a Kaleidescape thinking about selling it because they don't know if they do audio pass-through, it will let the processor process the audio. And, if you got like an Anthem or something like that, you got 190 something, kilohertz or whatever, like it could do. And you don't have that 48 kilohertz or whatever, like signal coming through the Apple TV anymore. Even though most movies are mixed in, 48 kilohertz or whatever, but it's like if you got a dope receiver, it's audio pass-through receiver does everything. So it's, people are getting kind of nervous with that. So people are thinking about selling their products, but I don't know. I think they need to harp on, hey, this thing, it sounds really good. It sounds amazing. This is the experience you're going to get. And we're lowering the cost. Maybe they can't manufacture as many of them. I don't know what it is. Maybe they just maybe it's a few people just want to make the most money as they can. People aren't the smartest. Even though people create products, sometimes people aren't the smartest on how to do it. You know what I mean? And maybe they have thought about the what's going on with home theater, the sales, products. 'Cause I know like Magnolia and Best Buy, I think they're like shutting down a lot of those, because people don't really want to pay all that money for super expensive speakers. I mean, people just don't want a speaker like sitting in their house. And people get married and their wives don't, they try to control them, don't let them do stuff, so they don't really sell a lot of things that they used to sell. That could be an issue. So, home theater is kind of taking a dive, so they want to make as much money as they can, and they're utilizing Shane Lee's, the Audioholics, and Youthmans, and all of these people to just push this on you and sell it at a high cost and tell you it's good. I saw a Youthman say a 1080p, like Kaleidescape, what was it, a Strato M or something like that, was just as good as like a 4K or something. I'm like, these doesn't sell you anything. But like the Strato V, which don't like I'm telling you this, I do not like how much storage. 10 movies is not enough. You know what I mean? Or you pay for a terrace server and you paying another like $5,000, $5,000 for a terrace server. Or you maybe $4,000, $3,000 something dollars, but then you don't know if the warranty is going to transfer. And there's going to be an issue with it running correctly with your Strato V. That becomes a problem. Another thing I don't like about the Strato V is that the user interface is 1080p. That is crazy for this price. It's just another like Kaleidescape just saying, that's what they doing to you. We don't like you. That's what it feels like as a consumer. When they put a 1080p upscale, whatever, it says 1080p UI is what it is. It doesn't, like, if you got a 4K TV like LG G4, you know, it still looks good, but a friend of mine has got a projector and he's got his Strato V hooked up to it. It looks bad. Like the user interface, like when he's navigating, you can see a lot of ghosting. Like just from the, you know, him going in between movies and stuff like that, it's like it's ghosting. Or like then when they start shuffling, because he's got like the Terra server, it ghosts like bad. It's like you didn't even think to put a 4K UI on there. Like these people don't be. I think this company is ran by people that don't know what they're doing. You know, it's just my personal opinion, but this is a real review of the Kaleidescape. You know, do I like it? Yeah, I like it. You know, the UI thing, just knowing it's 1080p, it looks good on my screen, but you know, I got a 55-inch in one room and another room, a 65-inch. You know, I didn't go bigger because I've got my height speakers in my house, like up on it, and then I love the way my setup is at home. Like I don't want a projector right now, but if I had a projector, I would not get a Strato V. I would get a Strato C if I had a projector. You know, but because it gives you the 4K UI. It's cheaper, so you can get the Strato C and a Terra server and save some money. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna pay. I mean, you might pay $1,000 less than $1,000 less than a Strato V, but then you got to buy a Terra server. So the $1,000 you would save on the Strato V can go towards a Terra server. And most projectors don't have Dolby Vision, and the image is so good without Dolby Vision with the Strato C. You know, you don't really need a Strato V. You know, and then you don't have to worry about that 4K UI, you know, but if you got a projector, and then you might think about Mad VR and stuff, and it's like, man, and then you get into like the scammy, like companies and stuff like that, trying to just scam you on everything. Like it gets ridiculous, you know, in home theater. So you got to be careful because these guys can get you to spend upwards of $100,000 like quick, you know, so just be careful. But those are my thoughts. I'm out, y'all. Peace.